Mary Jane Webster is the broker owner of REMAX Charlottetown Realty. I was privileged to have the opportunity to meet her in person recently, and her modest and humble demeanor didn't go unnoticed. So much so that despite leading a brokerage with many of PEI's top realtors who are at the top of their game, Mary Jane was difficult to research. What I do know is that Mary Jane is very community-minded, involved in a variety of organizations. She's on the board for the IWK Foundation, involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and she also enjoys outdoor activities here on the island like biking and gardening. REMAX Charlottetown Realty has a reputation for having realtors who are serious about their work and serious about results for their clients, and it is proven by the number of people who continue to list their properties and buy with REMAX. Year after year, REMAX has been ranked the most trusted real estate brand in Canada, and in October 2022, REMAX was ranked as the #1 real estate franchise brand in the world for the 14th year in a row. I'd be surprised if any of our listeners wouldn't recognize the REMAX balloon. Mary Jane has a solid reputation in the real estate community on PEI. She's down-to-earth, focused broker who helps her agents do their best work. So much so that I have decided to join REMAX Charlottetown Realty as a realtor, likely starting sometime between now and when this podcast is live. So today, I wanted to ask Mary Jane about what her top producing realtors are doing to make sure their clients get the best service possible. Welcome, Mary Jane.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you on here. I did have that conversation. I was like, I was really comfortable with you and really excited about the opportunity at REMAX and with you. And thank you so much for taking the time to come here.
Oh, happy to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. First question is, what do the top producing realtors do differently?
The big difference, there's no real secret sauce. The big difference is that they treat their role as a business. And any good business, the business owner has compassion for who they work with. They meet their clients where they are and help them get through the whole process from front to end. And that's the biggest difference anyone can make. It's for many people the largest transaction they're ever going to have in their entire lives. So they're trusting us with something pretty big.
Yeah.
So the best 8 realtors are the ones that understand that and treat their clients with the utmost respect and care. They're people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Yeah. People matter.
and as challenging as that too, right? Because you have to be willing to step into that role, and you have to take on that responsibility and trust with the people you're working with.
Right. And it's not a one size fits all. So it's not something that you can get a package of material in a box and go through this box of stuff and then all of a sudden you're able to go. You really have to understand people and relationships and kind of get that to fit in neatly with contract law.
Right.
And the pressure of the size of the investment and the size of what you're actually handling in terms of resources for the people involved. Yeah.
So would you say counter to that the #1 reason why someone may not be a top producing agent is they're not willing to kind of step up into that role or not able to?
I think I wouldn't say that. I think everybody has the ability to do it. And you have to, it's not an industry that it's for the faint of heart. You can't, unless you're really passionate about it and you really love what you do, it's not something that you should be doing. Truly, again, simply because of the size of what you're dealing with.
Right.
And the people that you're dealing with. You really need to understand people and how people interact and just trust. And if you don't trust someone that's going to handle the largest investment of your life, why are you working with them?
Yeah.
That it's huge. So you have to really be able to step into that. So the people that aren't successful, I don't think it's because they can't do it. I think maybe they don't understand it 100% or, there's lots of people that do a lot of transactions around the world that, if they see it as a transaction, then, their career path will probably have kind of higher peaks and valleys than those who see it as a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, right. And I mean, it's really easy to put that in perspective when I step back to my experience as a buyer or as a seller. But I often felt particularly vulnerable as a buyer in a lot of ways. You're making this really huge investment, and someone really being there for you, like at your level, really trying to figure out what it is that you need and want. And that would go for both as a buyer and seller.
Yeah. And we have a lot of we start to talk in realtor speak, and that's hard. So you have to really step back from that and, maybe put the acronyms aside for a conversation and, really kind of explain, especially for first time buyers, it's overwhelming. A lot of times they're just young, they're trying to establish themselves, they're trying to figure out are they going to have a family, are they not? So some of the biggest things you'll end up doing would, especially in that first time buyer population, you have two people with two professional incomes right now. And so they're approved at this top level, and for their mortgage qualifications, they shouldn't buy up there if they're going to have kids. Kids are expensive. So maybe dial it back. And that's the role of the realtors, to really try to educate them and help them understand that, even though you can technically buy up here, what about lifestyle? What about, do you want to go on a trip? Do you want to have kids? Do you want your kids to be involved in anything?
Right.
So those are all things that you have to really kind of wrap your head around. And it's really not just about buying and selling a house. It's about fitting people into a lifestyle. And what does that look like?
That is a very nice and totally appropriate way of looking at it. That's so helpful. Yeah. That's great. I'm going to just turn you up just a little bit here.
Sure.
Okay. And I mean, you kind of answered that with this one, but maybe I'll just launch into this one anyway. What should people be looking for in the realtor they choose to represent them?
Mostly someone that they can talk to and ask questions and feel heard and get the answers that they want. And, it goes both ways. The realtor has to be able to agree that this client is someone that you're going to work with. We have all had to have the hard conversations where we've broken up with clients or clients have broken up with us. And they're hard to have and it's hard to hear sometimes, but they're people. Not everybody's going to get along, or not everyone's going to be the right fit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're bad people or you're doing a bad job. It just means it's not the right fit, and that's okay. So the big thing I think would then be try to find someone that you can trust and that you can talk to, and just take it one step at a time.
Right. Right. Okay, great. Okay, this one is maybe getting into the realtor speak a little bit, but what are the advantages in time? So money. Or marketing exposure people can have by working with the right realtor. So I guess this maybe steps a little outside of the kind of that relationship side and more into the.
It works though. Yeah. I mean, you have to trust as a seller. You have to trust that your realtor is going to get the best price and give you the best exposure and present your home in the best possible way. And as a buyer, you want to trust that your buyer is going to get you the best price and the best home and, able to see through the glossy marketing.
Right.
At the same time. So in terms of the value proposition, I think working with the right realtor that's the right fit for you as a person would be, as a buyer, it takes, a lot of times it's our job to find you the home. It's not your job. We'll find we can find the homes. We can figure out once if you have those conversations, what are the things you're looking for? What do you want to do? What's your lifestyle look like?
Mm.
And if you want to be able to walk to restaurants downtown, then you probably shouldn't be looking in Stratford.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
And then, so we can sift through the products available. And everybody will tell you, we don't mind knocking on a door to ask the question, hey, no, your house isn't for sale. Interested in selling?
I was going to ask that, like, how important is finding people like off-market deals right now in terms of, being able to serve buyers in the market right now?
It's been huge in the last few years, which it's a good and a bad thing. I mean, some people will say if it doesn't hit the market, then it's not a true representation of fair market value.
Right, yeah.
But fair market value really is dictated by what is someone willing to pay and what is the seller willing to accept. And if you can find those two things and everyone's happy, then isn't that the point?
Yeah. And I mean, probably also, like, have you done one technique that I've heard that can be really friendly to kind of all sides of the transaction is, say if someone had bought in the last 5-10 years and they had a realtor who helped them buy as someone representing a buyer. Do you ever hear of people reaching out to that realtor and saying, hey, can you talk to that former client of yours, talk to them about maybe putting it back on the market, or we have a buyer who's interested in it right now?
That'll go a long way, especially within the industry. We all have to work together. So, and you build relationships with the other realtors in the industry, and that's huge.
Yeah.
So when you see, you just do that. Like if something's not on the market that was, call the realtor out and say, listen, is your client still interested in selling? I might have a buyer for it. And that will take you miles.
Yeah. And I mean, that seems like the sort of thing that would also be more efficient for your buyer because that person already has a relationship with that person. So you can go in then and help them find, and then that person knows that they're getting the care and attention from the person that they already have a relationship with. So, I mean, that could help get over some of the jitters maybe too, of kind of like, what's going on here, and build that trust or maintain it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I heard about that recently and I was wondering if that was actually like a common practice to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in, the last couple of years have been a bit of a frenzied market. It's shifting now, which is great. So it's been, in the last couple of years when we had that sort of frenzy of everyone moving here, you really had to make sure that you were protecting your clients. And that was,
be hard to do.
Correct.
You're going in without conditions sometimes.
So you have to really kind of step back and say, okay, what are we going to do here? And how am I going to protect everybody, including yourself and buyers, seller, other, your colleagues on the other side of the transaction? It can be, so then you have to go in with open eyes and say, okay, we already know, we can see that the roof is probably at the half of its lifespan. We can see that the furnace is this age. We can see these things. So you go in with educated as you can and inform your client or help them understand what they're looking at and go from there. But it's, that market's not a really fun market.
Yeah, kind of intense. I mean, I do, like, one of the things that when I, the last couple times I bought, I would go in at time of viewing with a contractor or with someone who at least worked in the trades and had been working on houses for a long time and could kind of go in and point to different things that are like, okay, these could be major things or not major things, to have a little bit of a advantage. And because, for this place, for example, there was no condition of inspection on it, but I did come in with a person who had been working on houses for the last 30 years and that gave a certain level of comfort going in and being like, and it did require some work and we knew it was going to, and it was more or less what we expected. But there were ways of navigating that, but especially there'd be so much trust involved with off-island buyers in that situation too.
Right. We were seeing, going through with a cell phone doing FaceTime
Hmm.
and people saying, yeah, okay, we'll buy it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Because for so many people, a house is really how does it feel when you walk in?
Mm.
And how do you convey how it feels
Mm.
through a cell phone?
Yeah.
And yeah. So but knock on wood, most people were pretty happy and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
not a
That's
whole lot of surprises, which was
It's
great.
true. And you know
Yeah.
what? I think one of the things about this, and this actually jumps into a later question we can have, it's like how, uh, I feel like I've been very fortunate in that there has been in the past of my buying
Mhm.
places where I have had more issues than I expected,
Mhm.
but always given enough time, it always kind of worked out. Um, what advice would you have for people who purchased and maybe later were like, there is more challenges here than we thought, or
Mhm.
maybe they feel like they're at the top of the market, or like what sort of conversations are people having around that?
Well, I think it's a couple conversations. So, I mean, when you start renovating, very rare that you stay on budget.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Only because as you peel off layers, you can see more things.
Hmm.
And, even with a home inspections are not allowed to be too invasive.
Yeah, they can't like start cutting down walls
Correct.
and yeah.
So if you open up a wall and then you find something, then that's, if you're buying an older home,
Hmm.
that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and the risk of a frenzied market is people are buying at the top. And so at every market has ebbs and flows.
Hmm.
And if you're buying on the peak, ride it out.
Yeah.
You know, stay put, ride it out, it'll come back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That is an advantage for people who have time. And maybe this is a really tough question. What about the people who bought at the peak and don't have time and have to move? You just have
Make
to
an
find a way
informed,
of
yeah,
navigating it.
try to figure it out, make an informed decision, work with someone you trust that you think can help you the best that they can.
Yeah.
And from that, all the best,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. I mean, that's life,
Yeah.
right? In a lot
Yeah.
of ways. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's hard to get through, and maybe, arguably, maybe we don't want to get through life without any
Yeah.
challenges, but there are things and bumps along the way, and some of them can be bigger bumps.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I have to find a way to increase my earnings power,
Yeah.
or there's a lot of adjustments that can be made outside of just that one investment as
Correct.
well.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's
Maybe add up your coffee budget for the month.
yeah, I
Dial
mean
it
that's a
back,
small one, but
I know.
still, those small adjustments do
Yeah.
come together.
They add up.
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do. Okay, let's keep this going here.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, given the sort of some of the change in the market to getting a little softer, if you are representing the seller,
Mhm.
how can you create that frenzy right now? Because you want to get, as a seller, you want to get the best price. You want to get ideally multiple offers. You want to get the best conditions possible.
Mhm.
Like, what are people doing in this market now to get it sold, and to get it sold at the price they want,
Mhm.
with the conditions they want?
Yeah. Prior to the last couple of years, it was quite rare that we saw multiple offers.
Right.
I mean, in 10 years, I might have seen 2
Oh, wow.
kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
And so, for a lot of time, we'd say, oh, I wish we had some of that Toronto pie,
Mm.
multiple offers all the time. And then we
Mhm.
had it and we were like, wish we could go back to being able to be calm and,
Right.
just allowing people to have time to make informed decisions is not a bad thing.
Mm.
It keeps emotions at bay. It keeps everyone just, carrying along as they should.
Mm.
But to get the best value as a seller, your best bet is price it according to the data.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't list my house at an exorbitant amount saying that that's what I want to get, right?
And then you miss that whole wave of initial people looking
Right.
at it if you then
Yeah.
have to do the price reduction.
Yeah, professional photos now are industry standard.
Mhm.
Um, and then obviously clean lines, tidy it up, a
Mm-hmm.
deep clean will go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, just that professional photography goes a long way. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's what you're packaging, if you can present it as best you possibly can to the world,
Mm-hmm.
that will pay back.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard this idea of kind of a 3 pricing strategy where it's like, okay, you can say, okay, let's go for that needle in the haystack and try to go above market. Then you can, and you never know, you might get that person. But what I see happening in the market, especially right now, is that those houses go on the market that are maybe arguably overpriced in today's market. Maybe they wouldn't have been,
A year ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. And or maybe they would have been.
Yeah.
And also in terms of what people were actually paying, not
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
what people were listing at. But then you miss that initial wave of people that are looking at it, and it kind of gets buried, and then you're trying to catch up with that with
Right.
reducing price, and it might work, it might not.
Yeah.
Or you can, I think what most people do is try to price it kind of right at the market, which I think is probably the way to go in a lot of cases. But I think there is something to be said for that, like going just like a little below the market and like trying to get that initial wave of interest and trying to get the people that are excited and coming in, doing that big maybe splash with an open house or something right off the bat, and trying to get that multiple offer situation right now. Does that, align with what you're kind of thinking or from your experience?
Yeah, it really depends. There's so many variables, right? What's the neighborhood? Where is it? What's the price point? What bracket is it in? So
right, because certain prices, like it would be selling a lot slower than like the high end market tends to have a longer time on the market, right?
Just because our population doesn't, just the way we are, our population doesn't have a lot of support for the multi-million-dollar properties. That's not saying they don't sell; they always sell. It just takes a little bit more time because you're targeting to such a small segment of our economy. But in terms of strategy, your best course of action is to price a home where it should be, given the history and the data of that area and what that looks like.
Yeah.
That's, the strategy that works the best.
Yeah.
Just to price it accurately.
You price it accurately. Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And the market will tell you pretty quick.
Right.
Yeah. No showings, no offers, you're priced way too high.
Yeah.
Some showings, no offers, you're still a little high.
Yeah.
And then as you come down, or as the market is telling you where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because the market is out there.
Yeah. And we're in an era now where people have access to that information. So if you bought a house and you're trying to sell it 6 months later and you haven't done anything to it, you can't expect to get $150,000 more.
Yeah.
It's the same market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So, there's a few questions in here that there's sort of like we already covered. Well, I guess this is a good one. You talked about cleaning and kind of making sure that it's tidy, and just like clean lines you mentioned. But what sort of, say if someone wants to invest in their property, maybe not go full blast, tearing down walls and things like that, but a little bit of investment. Where can a homeowner who's, say, not planning on moving in the next 6 months or something, or even is, or I guess that would be a different strategy, but what can they do what is the smartest investments that someone can put into their property? And I know it varies, but answer that how you like.
Again, it's about peeling back the layers. So the best thing would be to walk through your home with fresh eyes. And so bathrooms and kitchens probably have the best return on your investment. Now, if your plan is not to stay there for another 10 years, then I wouldn't go break the bank and get a custom kitchen with granite countertops and all of that. I
Yeah.
would get, something pretty middle of the road.
Yeah.
Yep. And I wouldn't go with a crazy color scheme, keep it pretty natural and neutral. Same with washrooms. I mean, people can break the bank on bathrooms. It's crazy what people can do with a bathroom now. You have a shower that has steam and, it can have steam with different essential oils in it kind of thing. And, so if you're not staying there for the next 15 years, probably don't put a $20,000 shower in.
Right.
Right? Like, you're not going to get that back.
Yeah.
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 So really, it's just about figuring out what the appetite is out there. Some of these home renovation shows are both a blessing and a curse,
Right.
right? So you can't just throw a coat of paint on and get $10,000 more kind
Right.
of thing. So
Yeah. How much does that matter? Like, I mean, obviously it does make a difference if someone throws a coat of paint on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
A coat of paint really, I mean, it really depends on your timelines, right? So I have some friends who are kind of artsy, so some of the color schemes in their homes were kind of bright and loud and, really specific to their taste.
Yeah.
And when it was time to sell, it's like, you need to dial it back. I love the,
Oh yeah.
color schemes fit you. They don't fit everybody. So
Yeah.
let's get some paint and we'll freshen things up. And
Mm-hmm.
a fresh coat of paint makes it look really clean and bright. And, again, it's about presenting that product.
Yeah. Yeah. And also they're not wanting to move into your home. They're wanting
Right.
to move into their place
Yep.
and make it their own. So
Exactly.
even if they do want some sort of bright colors, it may be different bright colors than you want.
Right. Yeah. Might not be the neon yellow.
It may not be
Yeah.
the neon. Yeah. Yeah.
Hot
Yeah.
pink.
Yeah. Tie-dye.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen it all.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of like when people really individualize their homes to themselves, especially if they're going to be there for a really
Yep.
long time. But yeah, when it comes
Yeah.
time to sell. Okay. So, if someone knows they aren't in their forever home, but they aren't ready to sell yet, like when should they be reaching out to a realtor? Like when is a good time to start having conversations around that? Is that something you want to be like, years in advance, or like what?
Maybe a year.
Yeah.
Just kind of reach out again to the person that you trust and just say, we're kind of thinking about this. If you have anything coming up that you think might fit us, keep an eye out. And then it doesn't become such a frenzied or a panicked, okay, we're going to list, we're going to buy, we're going to do all of this stuff.
Right.
Take your time. The crazy market's pretty much gone now.
Yeah.
So let's take our time. Let's have conditions. We can make informed decisions and do all that. And we can kind of go. The beauty of showing properties is it allows your clients to talk,
Yeah.
and I just often will ask the people I'm dealing with, or in the past when I've dealt with people, I'd just say, just talk out loud. I want to hear what you're saying. Things you like, things you don't like. And then it gives you some perspective of, okay, these are the things that matter. They want to be able to be making a dinner, but be able to see their kids. And, so then you can, if you have a house that's all chopped up into tiny little rooms, probably not going to work. So we can scratch that one off the list.
Oh, I gotta mute this.
Yeah.
That actually makes me think that I should put a window in that wall over there. That just occurred to me right now, and I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
I would like to see my kids while I'm making the food.
Yeah,
there.
they just
Yeah.
make sure they're okay. Check in on them. What are they doing? Are they wrestling?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're going through a timeline here, someone say wants to list and buy, say in both in PEI, and maybe they have a big place in the country, they want to move into a smaller place in the city, or just they want to be in a different neighborhood, or what kind of how would you put the order? Because I think a lot of times people will list their place to sell and then try to find a place to buy. Like and there are usually say if that doesn't work out, you can say rent a place or worst
Can
case,
you?
move in with family.
Yeah.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
People deal with it. But how do you recommend people kind of structure that journey? And I guess it depends on their individual case, as is always
Yeah.
the situation.
It's like
but
asking how long is a bridge?
right,
Depends on the bridge.
depends on the bridge. Yeah, yeah.
I would think when the idea pops in your head, probably reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Get an idea of what your house is worth in the current market.
Yeah.
And then that will give you an idea of what your next step looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially in a changing market, and again, the sky's not falling in. We're just sort of leveling out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be those crazy $20,000, $30,000 price jumps.
Yeah. Year over year. Sorry, I interrupted there.
That's okay.
Year over year, from the last market update, are we down in values, or is
We're
it
down in units? We're up in value.
We're still up in value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The change happened in the last quarter.
Yeah.
So we see it pretty immediate.
Yeah.
So whenever the interest rate started to be announced last April, May,
Yeah.
we saw it pretty immediate.
Right. Just the change of buyer
People weren't
behavior.
calling as much. Right. Yeah. And, then as they keep announcing the increases, we would feel it more and more with each announcement.
Mm-hmm.
But the data that's reported on is usually contracts that have been in place for 2 months.
Right.
Right. So we were a couple of months ahead of the actual data.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Right. And even if you factor in, this data would be on closing, right?
Yes.
And so these would be contracted in advance of that, at least a few weeks, more likely a couple of months.
More likely a month or two.
Yeah. And so, you would get the information a little bit earlier. But then also, so what kind of, but then it has to be published as well after that. So there's also a little bit of a lag, the month after those all closed.
Yep.
So right now, what are you seeing, say, as compared to the most recent market update from the Real Estate Association?
I kind of pulled some stats the other day just for fun. So when we look at, if we compare the full year of all of PEI from 21 to 22,
okay,
right?
Yeah.
Units were down by 16%, but prices were up 17%.
Okay.
So they almost had that sort of an inverse effect.
Right.
And we're typically a bit of an anomaly anyway in real estate trends. Most real estate trends start in the West and travel east.
Mm-hmm.
So it will start typically in the Western U.S., come up, and then across.
Oh, okay.
So that's typically the trends of most things. So we saw still pretty steady gains for the first 3 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw a bit of a shift in that last quarter.
Mm-hmm. Or you think prices are maybe down a little bit?
No, they're still kind of hanging on.
Right. Right.
Units are down.
So for people who are, so people are still getting that price. But
days on market's changing.
Right.
And again, we're just not seeing the crazy 20, 30% increases in price.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So in the market that's been hit the hardest on PEI is between 500,000 and $1 million.
Right.
Because again, that's when you look at your debt serviceability and the effect that an interest rate is going to have. Mm-hmm. The people in that price range,
they might want to come down a little bit.
They're just going to self-adjust.
Crowds that sort of medium market a little bit.
Yep.
So for people, there is a little bit of. I was actually when was this? A week ago, a little over a week ago. I was talking to a friend of mine who's an appraiser, and he was saying that their volumes are down, but the price is pretty much steady. From his perspective. Now, lately, he's been doing mostly Nova Scotia. He lives on PEI, but he's been doing mostly Nova Scotia lately. So he's not as, local as you are. Right. But yeah, it's interesting to follow that. Given that if someone wants to sell, or that they want to sell, say in the next, 6 months to a year, based on that, now actually maybe isn't that bad a time, or I guess it's hard to know.
The time to list is when you decide you want to sell.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of people say, well, wait till the spring market. Well, what are you waiting for?
Mm.
There's less competition on the market in January and
Mhm.
February and March. So, and the people that are shopping in January, February, and March are buying.
Right, because they're here because they need to move here.
Right.
They're not just like looking at the prettiness and
They're
thinking of
not
it.
going
and-
to open houses as a Sunday afternoon activity. They're shopping because they need to buy.
Yeah,
So,
and people keep moving to PEI.
yep. And even within the island, I mean, we didn't have that influx for a lot of years.
Mhm.
And, buying and selling in the wintertime presents a few different little challenges, but typically, if people are shopping in the winter, they're buying. So
Mm.
why wait? Why are you missing out on that whole market?
Yeah, especially if you want to move.
Yeah, if you're like, yeah, no, we're going to sell. Okay, get the sign up, get it ready.
Yeah,
Let's go.
let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. That's okay. So this one sort of follows up on that. If a realtor is working, they have say past clients or homeowners that they're working with. Even if they aren't about to sell, like what kind of value could a realtor add, whether that be in sort of providing market updates, maybe helping them, doing a CMA, comparative market analysis, to know like what have other similar properties been selling for and what kind of price range should they expect to get, like, or what kind of equity they have. Like, maybe I'm answering the question for you, but where's your mind go when I say that?
I think it's always important to check in.
Yeah.
Some of that responsibility lies on the realtor.
Yeah.
If they're your clients and you want to keep them as your clients, stay in touch with your clients.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's 500 other realtors who would love to work with them.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's always important, just, not badger them, but just check in. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Any questions? Lots of development happening. Any questions around any of that?
Yeah.
You still happy? You still like everything? Any changes coming up?
Right.
You want to have an idea of what your house is worth today.
Right.
And that can take you a long way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And especially if the person feels heard and looked after and cared. It's like, like there is something, like I like the idea as a homeowner of, buying the, property, owning it, and then someone checking in like, how are you doing now? It's like, oh, I'm not even planning on selling now. And you're checking in on me. Like, not great actually, or whatever it is, whatever the situation is, and being able to talk with someone who maybe is working in that world and maybe being like, how do you think I could navigate this situation happening here? Or do you know a contractor who can do this or whatever? Just another person on your team, it seems, appealing to me. And I think probably if I, working as a realtor, if I keep that frame of reference in dealing with people and, remember my perspective, Yeah.
The big thing to remember too is when, at the start of your realtor journey or your real estate journey, you'll have a bit more time on your hands, so you'll be able to do all those check-ins. Don't forget the people when you get busy, and that seems to be kind of the cycle of when people are starting out. They do such a great job of connecting with people in the beginning, and then they get busy and they kind of forget to do the little things.
The follow-up.
And then when they have a slow time again, they're like, then they start going back to those basics and touching base with people and connecting with them, and then they get busy again, and then it dies down again. So
so there's that
really
ebb and flow.
Just try to map it out. Like set aside a little bit of time each day and say, okay, here are my touch points. Here are the people I want to connect with today.
Yeah, that'll probably be something that later on will be useful advice for me to come back to. Maybe set like the calendar or a schedule in my day. Just have that little bit blocked off to check in on people. Be like, hey, how are you doing?
Everything okay?
Everything okay?
And sometimes get ready for a tongue lashing, because sometimes you'll call me like, this house is stupid,
Yeah, we did not realize what we were doing. Like, right.
We thought we could do all this on our own. We can't.
We can't. We feel house poor. We're not able to afford to go out for dinner the way we used to, or worse, like we're dealing with this. Like,
And those conversations, as hard as they are just as important as the ones that are, we love it. It's great. Okay, what could I have done differently? What, did you see any of this coming? Is this something I could have helped you with? and take that hard feedback
Mm.
and
Mm.
and be open to it.
Yeah. And then say if you feel like maybe after that you thought that your service was a 10 out of 10 and you realize, no, this was a 7
Yeah.
out of 10 or worse.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, this is what was lacking. Okay, how do I make sure?
Yeah.
It's like maybe I wasn't actually listening to them the way they needed to be listened to while they were in that space.
Right.
Maybe I was so excited about it. I was selling them on it as opposed to them just discovering this place that they want to live in.
Or, it's could be anything. It could have been that, even if you tried to say certain things and they're like, yeah, no problem, really.
Be like, are you sure
Right.
though?
Like, not try to discourage it, but just, like I had someone recently who bought kind of at the top of this house value.
Oh, okay,
Like,
yeah.
are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, you have to understand if you do this, you're here.
You're here. This is where
is
you
it.
live.
Yeah.
Which are they? Where are they now? Like, what's going on?
So far, still happy.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm like,
I'm relieved to hear that. Yeah.
But it was one of those situations where you're just like, please be aware. Please be aware that it is a busy market and this is at the top and you need to, like, this is not something that you can make a quick buck on. It's settle in, take your time, map it out, and then it'll come. It's just not going to come really fast.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, you're paying down your mortgage.
Right.
You're living your life.
Right.
You're doing your work.
Yeah.
You're and especially if it's someone. If someone is, say, near the top of their market, but they can still afford the payment and they're happy with where they're living. That is not,
and that's
to
what
me, a
this
sad
was.
situation.
That's what this was. This was, it was the area, it was the proper, like, the land size, it was the home.
Oh, yeah.
It was just stretched a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it was more of really just,
you making sure that they were good with that.
Yes. Like,
yeah,
it takes off all of these boxes.
Yeah.
But make sure that this part is the part that you're okay with.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you call me in 6 months and say, we made a mistake, I'm not getting this back for you. Like, you're not, like, there's going to be a loss here.
There's going to be a loss, yeah.
And be okay with that.
Be okay with that
Right.
if that's the direction life takes you.
Yeah. Just, again, just making informed decisions.
Yeah.
Informed decisions are the best ones.
Yeah, totally.
Because the last thing I want is that person to call and say, well, you never told me this. So.
And that seems to me like that is one of the big roles of the realtor in the market, as well as being that knowledge broker, that person who is in the field, kind of working on it on the daily and seeing what's happening and being able to, provide insights. And if they don't know, knowing who they can call to ask. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Okay. Now, I have so many good questions here. I have no idea how long into it we are, but I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
I think I'm going to skip to this one. Okay. So let's talk about the market.
Sure.
And in this higher interest rate environment, what are the biggest opportunities for buyers, sellers, renters, or investors? You can answer any of those. Like, where did your head go through as I asked that?
Well, I'll answer the quick ones. So renters with the higher interest rate, that's not going to really affect renters a whole lot because our rental market is governed by IRAC and the rental board. So the challenge that's going to happen right now in the rental market is a whole other host of issues with legislation that's kind of really backing landlords into a corner. And there's going to be a real shift because of with interest rates, inflation, costs of heating, maintenance, all of that, taxes. It's going to be put a lot of pressure on how a landlord can make.
And how much development takes place.
Correct. It's just.
So it creates more inventory crunch.
Correct. So that's going to be the hard part.
Mm.
If it's a renter looking to get into ownership,
Mm-hmm.
there's probably going to be opportunity.
Right.
I expect that any of the buildings that can be condomized will be,
Right.
and probably sold as units rather than rentals.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's going to end up, I think that in disallowing the allowable rental increase.
Which landlords don't have to go to the maximum.
Correct.
Yeah.
So by not allowing people to increase the rent to offset the costs of actually
It's literally
operating-
0% they're suggesting,
Yeah.
right?
No,
In spite
no
of
allowable
record
increase. Correct.
inflation and
Yeah.
oil, the cost of heating up and
Everything.
and
Plus,
taxes
plus.
up because the
Yeah.
valuations went up over the last few years.
Right.
Right.
So there's that's going to be more of a challenge to a renter than anything. If someone's looking to sell their home and get into a rental, it's also going to be hard because I think there's going to be a real continued crunch on available rental units.
Yeah.
Um,
Which also, like, if someone is very smart with how they can create rental units, it could potentially be a
Yes.
massive opportunity.
Yep.
To just flip over to the investor side, but
Yep.
back to what you were saying there.
Absolutely. So from an investment point of view, I think there's going to be a bit of a correction in that space right now, especially for higher density
Mhm.
properties.
Okay.
The interest rate is, with the interest rate going up and not allowed to increase any of your income,
Yeah.
it's going to put some pressure on some people that are landlords, and so there will be some come back on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Now the challenge with that is low rents mean that the cap rate's not going to be great,
Yeah.
right? So there's going to be this real sort of stall, perhaps, I think,
Mhm.
in that market space.
Mm-hmm.
With the interest rates for buyers and sellers, again, I don't think it's okay. It's not going to really negatively affect a whole lot
Mm-hmm.
here. We don't have, if you look at across the country, the average price of a home in Canada is $750,000, but the average price of a home here is, $400,000, let's say.
Yeah.
I'll just use round numbers.
Give or take. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're still really affordable as a province.
Mm-hmm.
So
if there is that migration happening, or people saying, you know what, with this interest rate, my mortgage is up for a renewal and I'm going to be paying this higher interest rate on this $1.5 million mortgage, and I could go down here and get something for $500,000.
I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes sense. So with that, the other thing, Canadians are really good at self-regulating.
Right.
In terms of
making these adjustments
and adjustments to price points. So, we had a couple of really great years with interest rates of less than 2%.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Everyone's going to be okay. So it's just going to mean that people in the selling space, they're going to have to price properly
Mm-hmm.
and advertise a good product, and it's just going to take a little bit longer. It's not going to be a week. It's probably going to be back to your average times.
Mm-hmm. Back in kind of like 2018, or are we talking 2016, 2012?
The market started to change in 2015 here.
Yeah.
That's when it started to really see kind of the uptake.
Yeah.
So anything after 2015 up until 2019, I'd be great with.
Yeah, right.
It was still really doable, and you could still have conditions, and it wasn't panicked.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's okay. I
Well,
mean,
that's like more of like a balanced lifestyle. Yeah.
It's okay. So buyers are not going to feel as pressured to walk through a house and basically see something for 10 minutes and then try to figure out if they want to spend $700,000 on it.
Right.
Right? That's okay. I'm okay if they wait.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really
we
good
make
point.
a decision.
Yeah.
have a conversation,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to allow buyers to look and shop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to mean that sellers are going to have to stand by their product.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to get top dollar, they've got to have a top product.
Right. Yeah.
So,
if there are
not a bad
issues,
thing.
they need to be dealt
Yeah.
with or
whether they sell or
acknowledged in the
not.
price. Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that we actually did cover buyers, sellers, renters, and investors there, which is
tried my best.
pretty great.
Yeah.
Good job. What are the I say what is the profile, but like who are the buyers and sellers for most of the transactions crossing your desk these days? Like, is there more of people from certain areas, or like, is that something that is different now, or is it just?
No, I mean, when at the onset of the pandemic, we had a huge influx of people from larger centers coming here.
Mm-hmm.
That has kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Not stopped dead, but it's not as rampant as it was.
Mm.
I mean, it was kind of nuts for the first year of it.
Yeah.
People not seeing a home. The first time they see it in real life is actually after they have the keys and we've filled the fridge.
Right.
Because they had to come and isolate then for 2 weeks. So
right.
It so there's the beauty of being able to work remotely is that people are more transient.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a mixed bag, if you will. Some people are moving to Ontario to the larger centers or across the country, and some people are moving here. So it's a real mix again, which is nice.
How can realtors build a genuine reputation for trust and integrity?
Actions.
Mm-hmm.
If you show people who you are, they will listen.
Mm.
So you can't go on about how trustworthy you are and be a snake oil salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So reputation goes a long way, especially in a small community, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So just treat your clients well. They'll treat you well.
Mm-hmm.
And treat it like a relationship, not a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, the people matter.
Of course, yeah. Great. Anything you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
I don't think we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Obviously not through an internet search.
No, you're there. You're there. There's just not a lot of biographical information.
Just easy. Well, stop by the office or give us a call, 892-2000, or just reach out. I mean, our phone numbers are out there.
Yeah.
Happy
Awesome.
to talk to anybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on here, Mary Jane. And
excited to have you on board.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Awesome. We'll do a little awkward handshake to finish it off. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for listening to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Cyrus MacDonald. If you want to reach out to me for any reason, please visit chattelfixtures.com to find my contact information, show notes, etc. We're currently looking for diverse and interesting guests. If you would like to have a conversation with me, or if there is anyone you would like to hear me speak with, or have an idea for the show, let me know. Get in touch through the website or tweet at me at Chattel Fixtures. We're currently seeking out relevant sponsors with solid reputations, serving customers, particularly in some way related to the PEI real estate market. If that sounds like you, get in touch with me if you want to support great, positive conversations about real estate happening right here in PEI. Visit chattelfixtures.com to learn more. Be sure to subscribe to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast, and see you in the next episode.